Thanks for tuning in to the Trap House Podcast. Now a quick word about our sponsors. We have Duke Traps. Check out duketraps.com. Duke manufactures over 40 different models of cage traps, coil spring traps, long spring traps, and body grip style traps. Also, my personal favorite, they have the Duke dog proofs. They come powder coated, perfect on the line. Check out duketraps.com and you won't be disappointed. We have J3 Outdoors, maker of the Hags Bracket, all American made products. Check out their website, j3o.com, and you will not be disappointed. They have everything from your bait holders, your spring clips, your tail hooks, the universal locks, the list goes on. Especially if you're a water trapper, you want to check this website out. That's j3o.com. We also have Top Lot Stretcher Company with us. Check out their website at toplotstretcherco.com. Top Lot Stretcher Company handles all your wooden stretcher needs, along with pelt handling supplies and trapping supplies. Check out their website at toplotstretcherco.com. And representing all the girls in the trapping world, we have Trapping Girl Inc. with us. Check out their website, trappinggirlinc.com. They have awesome apparel for the females. There's also kids apparel, lures and baits, things you could use out in the field. Check out their website, trappinggirlinc.com. And there's only one true way to start out the trap line in the morning, and that's with a nice hot cup of coffee from traplinecoffee.com. Check out their numerous collections. They have Trapline Blend, a Kodiak Blend, and my favorite, a Cherry Red Blend, all available at traplinecoffee.com. Also, be sure to check out Weeby Knives. That's weebyknives.com. They have skinning knives, fleshing knives, all your fur handling tools. Check out weebyknives.com. Need a place to sell your fur? Check out Groenewald Fur and Wool Company. They're the largest and most experienced direct receiver of wild fur with over 50 plus years of experience. Their website is gfwco.com. And last but not least, Hoosier Trapper Supply. Check out our website, HoosierTrapperSupply.com, home of the Top Dog Predator Bait and Jet Fuel Predator Lure. We got all your trapping needs, trapping scents and baits, deer scent, and apparel. Check out HoosierTrapperSupply.com. All right, welcome back to the Trap House Podcast. It's been a minute since we've sat down and kind of went through these.
Yeah, I think it was one of the first ones of the season we did this, and then
yeah,
we'll do one now. So
yeah, had a bunch of good guests on here lately. As you know, you could always go back and refresh, look at some old content. I don't even know how many podcasts we're up to. We're getting up there, 80 maybe.
Yeah, a lot.
There's a lot of different.
And a lot of it's not dated, so it's not affected by, I mean, the fur reports would be dated, which there was just a very good current one from Guy Groenewald just a couple weeks ago. So if you haven't watched or listened to that, that's a good one, and it's definitely, things are more positive. So
yeah. So yeah, sift through those. I'm sure you'll find something you like. Who doesn't like, talking about and listening about trapping? So
right.
So we got a bunch of stuff here on the list today. Charlie's got. But first things first, we should definitely mention this from the get-go.
Right. So I've been talking about this. Justin and I both have the Fur Takers of America Sportsman's calendar. So the way this calendar works is every day of the year, they're giving away either a gun or cash. So they have some sort of prize every day of the year. Day 1, January 1, a Browning X-Bolt Hunter 30-06. So day 2, $250. Day 3, a Savage Mark II FV 22 long rifle.
Yeah.
Day 4, $100. So every day there's a really good prize. So for $30, a donation to the Fur Takers, you get a calendar, and you have a chance to win one of those prizes every day of the year. If you win once, you actually go back in and you can potentially win again. So it's off of pick 4 numbers, and
yeah, they pick the numbers from the Pennsylvania lottery.
Right.
So that way, everything's legit. You know what your numbers are in advance, and you can look anytime, or you don't have to. They'll call you if you win.
Right.
Your number's assigned to your name and address and email. They'll contact you. So
it's a win-win. supports trappers. It supports the future of trapping. It supports the tradition of trapping. You're supporting, obviously, fur takers. Fur takers is actually involved in a couple different lawsuits, along with the NTA. So this money is not, this money is used. So anyways, it's a great way to support the trappers organization, which is basically defending your rights as a trapper. Bottom line, that's the bottom line. So unfortunately, a handful of trappers are the ones that basically support these organizations, and unfortunately, a lot of trappers don't. So anyways, if you would like a calendar, you can go to furtakersofamerica.com and order one. It's $30. They do charge $3 shipping and handling. You can give them a call and order one that way. There's a phone number on the website. And if you live locally, we do have some here at the shop that you can buy directly from us, and we'll take care of getting the money to fur takers. So, and we'll get you a calendar right on the spot. So, I guess that's it. So,
one thing I'll add to that too is, obviously by the time you're watching this, Christmas is a couple days away. But they do make a great Christmas gift. Just because you didn't.
Actually, it comes out Friday.
Oh, yeah. You still got a week.
Yeah, you still got a week.
you might be able to get it under the tree.
Yeah.
But even if you don't, and you're delayed or whatever, and it's already past January 1st, you can still buy a calendar. You missed out on a couple days of where you could potentially win, but you can still buy a calendar.
I think they're going to do that. So
yeah.
I don't know for how long. But
okay, well, double check. I'm sure everything will be on the website, so just don't miss that chance, you know?
Right.
Cool.
So these questions are all based on questions that we receive commonly, discussions on the phone, email, customers walking in the door.
All of it. Social media.
That's where this comes from. Some of it, obviously, we've answered in the past. Probably addressed maybe most of these in the past, but it's all relevant. It's all commonly asked questions, and some. Anyways, we'll get into it. So the first one, this was based on a phone call just the other day, and a guy was having issues with his cable stakes actually breaking on the creek, right here. So what's happening is when you go to reuse these and you pry them out of the ground, that's a lot of pressure on that cable, and it actually starts creasing that loop, and that loop can break. So when you're prying them out of the ground, whether you use a pry bar, crowbar, or one of the trap pullers, stake pullers, that actually is pretty hard on that right there, because when you do that, it's obviously creasing that. So you definitely, before you reuse that stake, make sure that cable is in good shape, both here and down at the bottom where the stake is attached. And it doesn't matter what brand it is. It's just the cable on any of the brands that is or can be an issue. So that's something for you to always check out. And I've said all the time, when you your traps, you need to at minimum occasionally look, and it's probably a good idea to look every time you make a catch, to make sure that all your hardware is in good shape. If you're using split rings, you got to make sure they're not sprung out. If you are using any type of swivel on your trap, and every trap's got that, you got to make sure your J hooks are still compressed. Obviously, you want to make sure your cable stake's good. Obviously, if you use chain cable stakes, you want to make sure that, which are going to be more durable certainly than the cable, you want to make sure all that chain and the welds are holding up. So that's kind of on you to kind of keep an eye on that, but that is definitely an issue. And obviously, the more times you pull that stake, the more times you're going to have possible mechanical failures on that cable stake.
Yeah.
Or chain stake. So.
Especially if you catch multiple animals on that set, your weather conditions,
right.
Things are going to start rusting. You put them to use. They're called disposable for a good reason, I think.
Yeah, although, like the Fox Hollow Super Stakes, I mean, that's not a disposable. But the cable or the chain is kind of disposable. So it's going to last for a while, but it's not going to last forever. So.
Yeah. Cut. Move that up here. Action.
All right, so on the cable stakes, the best way to remove them with the least amount of issue is actually taking a tile spade and going straight down along the cable and going back and forth, and then maybe you might have to go to the other side and do the same thing with the tile spade back and forth, which loosens the ground up, and then you can get that stake out of there with little resistance, with the cable and stake. One thing, most of us are in pretty dry conditions. Even though we've had some rain and may have dealing with some mud down deep, it's still pretty dry, so the ground's pretty hard. Western trappers always have that. Here in the Midwest, we've had a little bit more of that than usual. Most of us are fighting creeks or rivers that are lower than normal. So, you're like this, when the ground's even more hard, potentially you're going to have more issues. So, particularly when it comes to prying out. So,
yeah, definitely check on those, because that's the worst,
Oh, yeah. I mean, the animal doesn't deserve it. You don't want to lose your equipment. It's just a bad deal all the way around. So,
okay, next topic: how to deal with non-committal committal critters.
Commitment.
Committal. Coyotes. All animals, really. You got here December issues. It's just that time of the year where, as far as speaking of coyotes, would be, early season stuff, deer hunting, stuff starting to move. There's less gut piles in the woods, and wouldn't you think they'd be more hungry? Why wouldn't they commit more?
You mean now?
Yeah.
So now, they are still having. There's several issues. So one, it's after the pup dispersal, so they haven't really got their home range. There's still generally plenty of food out there because we're still feeling the effects of all of the excess food created by deer season with gut piles and wounded deer and stuff that people have dumped after they've butchered their deer. All of that. And in most states, deer season's still going on, even though the peak is over. Like here in Indiana, we got our muzzleloader season and bow seasons in, should clear through the January. So there's a lot of food out there. So this non-commitment issue is not new to any particular part of the season. I think it just gets worse in December. And they're walking by. They're in a different frame of mind. They may not even smell your set. And then we've talked about this before too. So you'll have animals that will maybe come up, approach your set. You'll see their tracks, but they don't go any further. So that's really more of a non-commitment. So, and that just happens. And there are some nights where you'll just kind of have that. And I don't know if it's related to the barometric pressure. Obviously, a full moon has an effect. All of those things play into that. And then you'll have nights where every animal just went charging and stepped in your trap. It's just the way it is. So,
yep.
So the non-commitment is very normal. You're not doing anything wrong. You are going to have to wait it out. Maybe you may not want to hear that, but if you want to wait it out, I think that's a good idea. But that's kind of...
Yeah, we've talked about this. You call it the December lull.
Right. So we got non-commitment based on the December lull and also based on other completely other factors, with full moon and whatever. So, it's just kind of the way it is. So, all trappers that have been around for a while fully realize this. They've dealt with it before. They'll deal with it again. You'll never get rid of it. It's just if you're starting out, I know it can get frustrating and maybe think you're questioning yourself, but everything's fine. Just keep going. So,
yeah,
don't overthink it. Some of this is just like, you're better off just, okay, that's the way it is, go on, so
right.
There's always something to learn, but then again, there's sometimes no sense in beating yourself up over something you don't have control over.
Right. I feel like it's happening so often, a lot of people don't even know it.
Right.
Right. If the ground's hard, they're not leaving traces. And then, you get a skiff of snow, and then everyone's like, what in the world is going on? They're walking circles out here around my stuff. They won't commit. But I think that's just the nature of trapping. It happens all the time.
Right. And the camera use nowadays is pretty extensive, so a lot of guys are using cameras. So number one, you got to make sure your camera is not actually affecting or spooking the animal. So the better quality cameras, the less the animal knows that it's there or going on. But that is something that you definitely want to be careful with. The other thing is some of that, and that is a really good way to learn. Clearly, Tom Morlock's DVD, trail cam trapping DVD, it was very informational, very educational, a good DVD. But on the other hand, some of that is like information overload, and some of it is information that you probably just better off not even knowing. So, and I mean that kind of lightly, but some of it's just like you don't have control over it, and it's just the way it is, and you just have to wait it out, and you just try not to overthink it or beat yourself up. So,
yeah. Now obviously we're talking about coyotes and predators. What about issues of non-committal? I guess I keep saying non-committal. Non-commitment with water trapping, coons and that sort of thing. Is it more or less not really commitment? It's more or less if it gets extremely cold, they're still kind of holed up. Then when the warm up happens, they'll run.
right. So yeah, with the coons, it's normally just time of year. So they're all big and fat. They've all been eaten all fall. I mean, if those of you that started out with the first part of the season probably did really well, then you've seen your coon catch kind of drop off, and that's generally related. Well, number one, you probably reduce the numbers some. The other thing is you get them laid up, and they go into that, they can lay up for a couple weeks if they want to or longer, but they go into that partial hibernation, and so that's something a lot of guys, they get done deer hunting and they want to go trap, and maybe they start out with raccoons, and well, it's like they're not catching because the weather just is not really conducive to raccoon trapping, and December is not really the greatest raccoon trapping month either. But when the weather breaks and you got a nice warm night, then normally you do pretty well on raccoons. So
yeah,
so that can be another issue with a sporadic catch. Let's put it that way. So
would you say? I mean, if obviously work and there's a lot going on here, if you didn't have any other restraints, what would be your favorite time of the year to actually trap for coyotes?
So
obviously when they're prime.
right. So here in Indiana, I think I'd like to, we've done it in the past. This year we weren't able to time-wise, but generally about the time raccoon season comes in. So November 8th, our raccoon season comes in. So I'd probably start out 5th or 6th of November, working on getting a line out. And, that's when they're reaching primeness, good time to catch them. So, if you're going to run a 3-week line or something, that would be a good time of year. The only thing is you're running into deer season then. So, you just kind of, yeah, exactly. You just kind of got to trap when you got time and when you can fit it in. So, and I realize you said no constraints, but I don't know of anybody that doesn't have constraints.
Well, I meant like work constraints, not necessarily what's happening outdoors, but
yeah.
Well, how to set for canines in the woods?
You have to work off of trails.
There's no way around that. And and the other thing there's no way around it is catching coons, possums, and everything else that's running the same trail.
Right. And you may be messing with deer that are if you're on a deer trail. Deer like the smell of this stuff too. Some guys don't use urine because they think it helps avoid deer. Deer also like the smell of lure and bait. They're just curious about it. But if not using urine when you're in the woods, if deer are an issue, try that. See if it cuts the numbers of issues down with deer. I think. You just got to get in there and set on the trails. A guy was in here, and I've heard this before, and we've talked about it, I think. Guy says, he was a deer hunter, he wasn't a trapper, and he's like, he had a trapper on his place, and he said, the guy was just working off the 2 tracks and the roads and stuff, and he wasn't going into the woods where the coyotes are. Well, clearly, a coyote can be anywhere. They can run anywhere, but where are they most likely going to run? So you do have to work off some sort of path of travel or some sort of feature. A lot of times if there's a creek running through the woods, there's always trails along those creeks. Those are always good for bobcats and coyotes. So I guess 2 tracks going through the woods. Depending on the forest, if you got old logging roads or if you got Forest Service roads, which you've seen us work off of in Arkansas.
Yeah, the Arkansas footage is a perfect example of kind of how we do it.
Right. If you're here in the Midwest where you've got the patch woods, I would probably still try to set on the exterior of the woods or set off a trail that's coming out of the woods but still set in the field. But that's really not answering the question of how to catch canines in the woods. But that location, narrowed down locations where you got trails or some sort of geographical feature within the woods, like a creek, that kind of thing.
Yeah, if it's more rugged or mountainous or what, saddles, things like that, it just makes it easier from the cross over the mountain.
Right.
The dips where converging lines all meet and things like that. That's where it's easy for us to walk, it's easy for them.
Right.
Simple. That kind of can go into this next question a little bit too, with in the woods or even in open fields. How many coyotes are in an area?
That
is,
varies significantly from year to. It can vary significantly from year to year. It can vary significantly from, just what part of the country you're in. There's lots of factors on that. So, they can get parvo. They can and die off. That can have mange, which clearly affects them if the population gets too high. There's a lot of factors in that. So there's a lot of pressure factors in that. If you've got guys hunting them at night, whether they're using thermal or night vision, you've got trappers, you've got people snaring, you've got all of these things. Particularly if you get a little bit started a little after deer season, and these guys have already been
coyote contest.
Yeah, coyote contest. No more of those are late, but yeah, generally the populations vary, and there's really no super good answer to how many coyotes are in an area. You just have to get in and get a feel for it. So typically, if you don't make a catch, if you're making catches regularly and you go a week and you don't catch anything, you may have kind of knocked them. Now, it's not to say that you couldn't go back, a month later and set it up again and be back in coyotes. But
yeah, I just got done reading a book, Coyote America. And that was one of the things talked. There's so much. It's very in depth on all aspects of coyote and their nature and how they do things. But as far as the history of time, they've always seemed to be within reach of human activity. Mm-hmm. So cattle farms or whatnot, they're on the outskirts. Those big desolate areas, there's not as much for them to mess with.
Right.
They're going to come in and they're opportunists. They're going to take advantage of whatever situation, whether it be as simple as us just accidentally leaving garbage out to, your pets or whatever, sheep.
Right.
All that. But as far as the history was concerned, I found that very fascinating that they almost traveled along with either Native American tribes or whatever. There's always been some sort of,
right.
Food
source for them or resource for them. So like in Texas, if you got away from the cattle, got in a big pasture where the cattle really weren't there, the coyotes weren't near the numbers that they are when they're up around the cattle. The cattle got to be there. So, because that basically takes that vast thousands of acres and of emptiness essentially. And if the cats are there, the cattle are there, the coyotes are there. Now the bobcats, that's a different story. But the coyotes are where the cattle is, or where the cattle are, and that's their focus. So that's, if you're on a farm and you got cattle on a pasture, that can be a real pain to trap, because the cattle are stepping on your trap, they're pawing your trap, they're curious about the smell, they're just really annoying to trap around. But if you can set where they're not necessarily going to be, or right outside the fence, or by the gate, even if the gate's closed, the coyotes are still going through, particularly if it's a wire, like a barbed wire fence or whatever, gate. But yeah, it's just one of those things where you want to try to avoid cattle directly, but that's where the coyotes are at. So
Next question. Stretchers, wood versus wire. We've talked about this a lot. But, it is, people are catching fur, and it's about that time where they're going to start thinking about putting it up and what they want to do with it. So,
right. This was an email I just got the other day. I guess he was setting up his fur shed. He was basically just figuring he was going to go wood, and then he listed all the animals he was going to trap, which was pretty extensive. The thing about wood is it's very specific. So you have to have a stretcher for red fox. You have to have a stretcher for gray fox. You have to have a stretcher for raccoons. You may need more than one size raccoon. You got to have a stretcher for possum. So it's very, very specific. And wire, if you have a number 4 wire, you can use it on coon, possum, skunks, red fox, gray fox, all on that number 4 wire, just basically by creasing the top and getting it thinner or making it wider. If you're in a northern state and you have really large raccoons, then the number 5 wire stretcher would be for you for that. But here in the Midwest, that number 4 stretcher will get you virtually everything. The number 1 wire muskrat stretcher, and I don't really know where this all got started with muskrats on wood. With guys arguing about it, they look better on wood. I know that buyers prefer them not to be on wood. Generally, you can't stack them for one thing. For those of you, when I bought fur for a number of years. That if you had 100 muskrats, you took 10, 10, and then you went 10, 10. So there'd be 40, 60, 80. If you do that with a wood stretched muskrat, you can't do it because they're too thick. So a wire stretched muskrat, it's perfect. And assuming that muskrat's handled properly, wire stretched muskrat, to me, even looks better. But that's because of my past history. But somehow this got off in the weeds on muskrats and wire. And I know you guys, there's guys out there going to be disagreeing with me. But I know Groenwald would prefer muskrats to be on wire stretchers too.
yeah.
The only thing I will say that does not go on wire, and we sell mink stretchers that are wire, and you can get by with it, but they look like crap. So mink need to be stretched on wood. It makes a really nice looking product, a really nice looking skin. And that was the only thing, even in the years when I was buying fur, I never put a mink on wire. We always put all our mink on wood. Everything else went on wire. So
That's crazy. No, I was sitting here thinking.
Otters need to go on wood too. With tacking the tail out and making them look nice.
Yeah.
There's guys stick them on wire, but overall, you're way better putting otters on wood as well.
I was sitting here thinking, I don't think, if I have, it was just in passing or glance, but I've never seen a muskrat on wood.
Damn at the first sale.
Yeah. See, they're already pulled off there, haven't paid attention. They're just,
they're usually really thick. You can't stack them, and I don't even think they look good. But that's from my 40 years of being around it. So
now I do like a raccoon stretched on wood. I think they look great. They're uniform,
right.
But it's just not necessary, especially with today's type of market.
Right. So if we get to a higher level of prices with raccoons, coyotes, foxes. Oh, bobcats should go on. I think bobcats are better on wood too. An adjustable wood stretcher. Top Lot sells an awesome bobcat stretcher, which I have, and I buy the adjustable ones. It's awesome. It's a really nice stretcher, and bobcats should go on wood too. They just look. I've lost my train of thought. I got off on the Top Lot stretchers for. Coon. So if we get up to a higher level of pay for raccoons, and the grade's going to get tougher when the higher the price gets, the grade will get a little tighter. So we got to justify the price if you're paying for that skin. So the thing to do is then, if you want to use wood, use it for your better ones. Use it for your better quality ones. You will gain a little size. You got a little more control over size for sure. You can put lines on your boards and make sure you get to that line in terms of size. That's pretty important. But all the marginal raccoons, the smaller ones, the ones that are even bigger coons, but the quality's not as good, just put those on wire, because it's not going to make any difference. But on those nice ones, it could be gaining you something. So I think that's probably a good way to do it. And if you just like putting up fur and you want to use wood, that's fine. They do look really nice, except for muskrats.
But I feel like this might be like some sort of weird slogan T-shirt coming.
Yeah.
Keep your muskrats off wood.
Yeah. So anyways, yeah, I think that's just kind of a point to you always got to be somewhat flexible, and you always got to me, it's always got to kind of make sense, for effort put forth. And there are people that really just enjoy working fur and enjoy putting it up, have it looking as nice as possible. And whatever you like to do with that, then that's fine. I mean, it's not going to hurt you price-wise, that's for sure. So,
yeah.
But if your time's limited, you want to be sensible about it, just kind of weigh it out. But I would generally lean towards wire for the bulk of stuff. So,
yeah, we should mention beaver.
Yes.
Beaver on wood to get that nice oval pattern.
Right.
Versus the hoop stretch, they're like round.
Yeah, the hoop stretch, that, guys will argue, well, they dry better on a hoop because both sides are completely exposed. But
True.
With the beaver, you can control your shape better on wood, much more uniform. It does have the nail holes around the side, but that's completely acceptable. One thing about when you tack your beavers out on wood, you can raise the skin up a little bit on the nail, and that way the air can get underneath, and that way it doesn't mat the fur down as much. So if you take, I guess what we're talking about is, so if you take, I don't know what they even call it nowadays, basically a 3/4 inch piece of plywood, a nice thick piece of plywood, and a 4x8 sheet you can divide into 3 pieces. So it's going to be 48 inches, and then I think it's 32 inches wide, 48 inches tall, and you can get 3 of those out of a sheet of plywood. And I know plywood's kind of expensive.
Yeah, but it's one of those things, once you have it, that's going to last a long time.
Right.
You tack out a lot of beaver on that.
Right. And the reason for the 3/4 inch is that you can put a beaver on both sides, and then that also is going to last you longer. So, and then you can get the beaver template and mark your circles on there. When you put your circles on for your sizes of beaver, go red marker, black marker, red marker, black marker. That way you don't get your lines mixed up when you're tacking them out.
Visually.
Yeah. Don't overstretch them. That's important. If they're just a hair loose, it makes the fur look a little fuller. A common thing with beavers is overstretching or not using enough nails. And if you don't use enough nails, you got those real scalloped looking edges.
I hate that.
Yeah, it looks really bad. However, with this being set on beavers, and you can really make a really nice looking product with a beaver taken care of properly. The beaver market right now is basically all going to the hat market, the felt hat market, cowboy hats. So those, a lot of them, fur buyers are just buying them frozen, grown wild. In fact, you can skin that beaver, fold the beaver in half, freeze it, and you can sell it to them just like that, which they...
And you would get the same price.
Close. It's not quite, but it's darn close, yeah.
Yeah, for the effort. Really, when you figure out what you want to do with it, I would talk to the buyer and see how they want it,
Right.
Because ultimately, they're the ones buying it. So
right.
If they want it on wood, put it on wood. If they don't, green, whatever.
So, right.
Just make it easy.
And depending on what section of the country you're in, too, there's some beavers that are obviously going to be worth more. They're a lot heavier, shearable types north of us, that kind of thing. So that's pretty important as well. So
that pretty much covers that, huh?
I think so. I didn't mean to step on toes on this muskrat deal, but
Oh yeah, I can't wait to get the hate messages.
but yeah.
This next one here, this one's fun. This is one of my favorite types of trapping because we just don't really get to do it here, but we do on our trips.
Right.
Trapping cats, bobcats, locations and attractant.
So let's do the attractant first because that was simpler.
Okay, yeah, because the location part I feel like is so much fun to try and pinpoint where these things go because
Right.
they can be wizards at sometimes trying to figure out.
Right.
So attractants.
So, if in doubt, beaver caster or a beaver caster based attractant in skunk. Right there, that right there will get you. We have a beaver lure, or I mean a bobcat lure called Finicky Feline. It has catnip in it. That works well. It'll also those three with the beaver caster based, the Finicky Feline, and the skunk, which would be a long distance. Those all are attractive to any predator, but bobcats particularly like that stuff. So those are all good. As far as bait, we use Top Dog. Mighty Dog worked too last year. But and then we use bobcat urine. So, but if in doubt, anything with beaver caster and the skunk. So,
Yep, beaver. That's to me the universal attractant.
it is
for all animals.
right. But
Skunk is right there with it though, so
Right.
it's hard to say. But I just like how many different smells that you can get from a beaver,
right,
from the carcass to the caster to the oil sacs to the tail oil, all that stuff. We've talked about this numerous times,
Right.
but I just always found that fascinating.
Right.
And all predators like that stuff.
right. There is a lot of attraction in that beaver.
Yeah, I mean,
kind of amazing. Yeah.
endless.
Yeah.
Okay, locations, pinpointing where these cats can move.
So first off, a lot of cats are just caught in coyote sets.
Yes.
After that, you can go looking for locations. So if you saw the last Texas video that we put up just last week, there was a cat that was caught in a specific cat set, which doesn't always happen to us, but
Those are the best.
those are the best.
So you
So
knew that was exactly what you were targeting, and it worked out.
right, it was a cattle trail on the side of a big,
Mesa.
big, I don't know, rock mesa or whatever it was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, more of a rock hill, I guess. Really wasn't a mesa, but and then it had some pinch points, the narrow spots that had some big rocks in it. It was kind of a no-brainer. Basically, one of those narrowed spots. Put your trap in there, block it off, attractant, good to go. So that it's awesome when you can do that. Years ago, when we used to trap Kansas, we would kind of get in these areas where there'd be like a draw, and then if there was a big thicket of cedars, just head for, if there was a trail going through those cedars, that's where you want to set. I mean, because those cats are going in there to hunt for birds in those cedar thickets. So those are ideal. Any type of bluff with a trail on it, those are all good. Along the edge of a creek in the woods, excellent.
Washed out little creek bottoms,
Yeah.
sandy bottoms and stuff.
You've seen
Brushy.
you've seen us on one where we were at an old abandoned homestead, and there was a trail coming up out of a bottom. There was a creek down below.
In Kansas.
And caught two cats back to back off that trail. One night, second night, two cats. Those trails coming out of those brushy bottoms, particularly when you're in the west, man, those are just awesome features. When you got farm fields and you've got those creeks, I mean that's with the trails coming out, same thing, just as good. You need areas with lots of cover and places that just think of where they would hunt, where they're most likely going to find their food. And cats are weird about moving. I mean, they do what they want to do when they want to do it. So, or they do it. Yeah, it's just they're on their own agenda, just like a house cat.
Right.
But you want to be right in there with them, and it's kind of seems like some of it seems like schoolboy trapping when you were a kid. You were making all these crazy sets back in the thicket, and you're building up cubbies and all this crazy stuff, which wouldn't fly with coyote trapping, but it sure does with bobcat trapping. So,
yeah, I think they're very there's so many statistics and things about bobcats and their terrain and like how far out they move and travel. But at the same time, they are creatures of habit. They repeat the same things. So if you can kind of figure out where those areas are, there's probably another one circling through there.
Right.
Which that's happened with us a few times. But
Right.
yeah, if you can find where they're moving, that's why it's huge on setting on sign for them.
Right. If you can find some.
Yeah, if you catch some droppings or you catch a track, you have to set it, even if it's not even the most ideal looking location, because they'll probably come through the exact same way.
Right. I think too, while we're talking about this, cats prime late, so you don't really want to catch them in November, even early December. You don't really want to be catching them. They're better if you can catch them late December, January, and February, because that's when they're really fully prime. When you go that later January, February, the big toms are moving. It's their breeding season, and that's when I think we've done the best. Certainly in Arkansas, it was noticeably better if we were going late January into February than we were doing early January, which is what we used to do.
Right.
I think we did.
Yeah, you can definitely tell.
Yeah. So when you get those, and that big tom moving through, he may not ever come back through there again. Particularly while you're there. So
Yeah.
we caught that double on cats that one year. That was clearly a tom and a female. That was clearly a breeding season scenario for the most part. So
Yeah. We've had the luck and advantage of trapping not just 1 or 2 seasons in an area. We've been to Arkansas somewhat in the same region
for several
years. So to compile all that and what makes sense, and that's just kind of what we've found, really.
Yeah.
So, anything else on cats?
I mean, just go out and have some fun with them. I mean, you can set culverts up. I mean, you can set under bridges. I mean, there's just so many places that you can set for them that you wouldn't necessarily think about setting for coyotes. Sometimes if you're a raccoon trapping in thickets or brush, that would be kind of go along with cat trapping too. And it's just like I said, it's kind of that schoolboy trapping that you would not necessarily think of being the greatest location, particularly if you're a coyote or a fox trapper. But man, it's really good on the cats. So,
Yep.
Guys have on a side note, guys have showed me video, their trail cam video of a cat just literally sitting on its butt, just staring at a set, and then just gets up and walks off. Just like, well, not interested tonight. But the next time you came through, you very well may. One thing we didn't talk about is visual attractants.
Yeah. People hang all sorts of things, and we've tried it. I've experimented a lot with it. Honestly, I'm not as crazy about it, just because I like to have a multi-species set, because we're only there for a limited time. I want to catch any critter coming through, sort of idea. But a lot of guys, you just say, hey, it's Christmas season. Use Christmas tinsel, or
Right.
depending what state you're in. A lot of people can't use actual feathers.
Right. If feathers are legal, those are probably your best bet. You can just literally throw them around your set. You can hang a wing from a tree. Just make sure it's something that you can legally hang. You can, just any of that stuff is very attractive. Now, I will also say it's attractive to birds of prey. So be careful with that too.
Catching hawks or something you don't want to mess with.
Right.
What's some of the other things? Oh, people use anything like reflective.
CDs,
old CDs and stuff.
What's a CD?
Compact disc. I'm a retro trapper. I hang 8 tracks in my tree. Brings them in better. But yeah, things like that. Like I said, I've played around with it and I wasn't so crazy with it. But there's other trappers that are just gun ho with that and they have great luck with it. So
the other thing is a lot of times we're on public ground, so obviously we don't want to be flagging our sets because then everybody knows exactly where your set is. So when in public, we don't flag at all.
Mm-hmm.
For on private, then we'll do some flagging. But yeah, it's or you're super remote on public. But
yeah, I felt like some places in New Mexico, it worked out great. I remember catching a couple. One cat, remember the one that got hung up on the rock and went up the hill?
Yeah.
Because I didn't pre-wrap the drag well enough. It was just so vast and open, and I had Christmas tinsel down, and it just blew perfectly in the wind, and you could see it from far away. So if they weren't exactly in the area, it could draw them. So, and that particular time, it worked out perfect.
Right. Yeah, I had one in New Mexico on a different year, just kind of in a wash below a water tank, and just had tinsel in a tree, and that cat went right to it. I'm assuming it was because of the tinsel, but I can't really say for sure. I mean, because he would have easily been attracted to the smell too. So they talk about cats not having the greatest sense of smell. Maybe they don't have Coyote's sense of smell, but their sense of smell is really good. So
Yeah.
it's definitely one of their good senses. Clearly their eyesight is probably number one, but they do have a good sense of smell. I mean, we've caught quite a few cats in the Arkansas woods without any flagging. So
Right.
but,
All right, and the last one, which we've discussed and had Guy Grunwald on, the fur market.
yeah. So if you listen to his podcast, you will hear him explain the scenario with the ranch mink and how the numbers are going down. The production is down significantly, but it's going to be about 7 million, which sounds like a lot, but it's not. In the scheme of things, the 7 million mink is nothing. So compared to a few years ago, it was 80 million. So that leaves a lot of room for the improvement of wild fur. And this is me talking, I don't know that we're going to see a 2013 in the near future. I don't know that we're going to see a 1970s and 1980s at all. But, at least we're moving in the direction where you can sell your fur, particularly if you are somewhat conscientious about what you skin and what you offer for sale and how you present it. So we talked obviously about handling fur and beavers and that kind of thing, but we are definitely moving in the right direction, and it's definitely more positive than it's been. And I think even going into the 24-25 season, barring some other catastrophe like China going into Taiwan or something like that, which would be devastating, things should be even better going in a year from now. I mean, that's me talking. That's nobody else. That's just pure speculation on my part, just by kind of what I'm hearing. So, not pure speculation. It's based on kind of what has been said. But, anyways, things should include and continue to get a little better. Yeah, and it is up to us to put quality stuff on the market, not to load the market down with a bunch of early season or very late season caught stuff. And it is important to have fur, inventories out there that can be sold. If there's no fur being caught and there's no inventories out there to sell, then they'll just move on to something else, which I think guys addressed that in the past. So it is important to have this fur caught and have it on the market. And it's our responsibility to catch it and also take care of it and to catch good skins. So
good. I like it. A positive fur market. Everyone
exactly.
wants that.
Yeah.
So, well, this is the last podcast before Christmas. So Merry Christmas to everyone.
Yep. Merry Christmas.
Thanks for hanging in there with us. And the next one that comes out will be just before the new year. So
right. So.
All right, Charlie, anything else?
I think that's it. Don't forget your calendars. You probably got a little time to get one for Christmas. If not, don't forget it anyways. So it's just a good way to support trapping and have a chance to win an awesome prize. So
perfect.